Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Marketing the Invisible. I'm Tom Poland, beaming out to you from the sunny Sunshine Coast here in Australia. Joined today by Kevin or KG Gaither from another sunny coast. Whereabouts are you hanging out, KG?
I am in beautiful Southern California, just north of Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. It's beautiful
And
out here today.
a little birdie told me your neighbors are the Kardashians. Is that right?
That's right. We hang out. And Ozzy Osbourne. We hang out from time to
You
time.
hang out. Yeah, that would be interesting if nothing else.
Right.
Folks, KG's thing is getting truly driven salespeople onto your team. Now, there's all sorts of benefits with this. Of course, you start to scale sales. You take a whole monkey off your back. You can focus on the things that you really want to do, which might be product development or client work. But by golly, they're hard to pick. If you get the wrong one, they just drain your bank account. If you get the right one, they add multiple return on investment back to your bank account. So it's a specialty. Kevin's had an early stage tech startup, works with them to grow leaders, sales teams, got over 25 years experience of doing those, building teams and sales teams. And so we're going to get to benefit from some of his successes and perhaps some of your mistakes as well, Kevin, in this little interview.
No question. I learned more from my mistakes than the failures, Tom. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And more from criticism than compliment. So let's dive into it. The subject is hiring truly driven salespeople. Kevin, our time is going to start now, sir. Question number one, who's your ideal client?
Yep. So I'm not a recruiter, okay? But my ideal client is a coachable and humble CEO, founder, or head of sales at a growing pre-IPO tech company. That's my ideal client.
So they're ready to scale. They're ready to hire salespeople to get the word out. And
that's right.
And they may not have the specialist knowledge to understand that getting truly driven, motivated, ethical, professional sales results driven salespeople is actually a whole thing in itself. So tell us about the problem you solve. Is that sum it up, or is there more you want to add to that?
Yeah, you're right on. And there's not just one thing. What I end up doing is I end up helping those leaders at those pre-IPO tech companies avoid the galactically ridiculous mistakes that I've made over the past 25 years when building, fixing, and growing their sales teams. And the problem with these leaders is that they just don't know what's around the corner. And I help them give visibility because I've been there many times. And the number one thing that I see these leaders mess up is hiring. And we can talk more about that, down the line here.
Right.
But that is of my four pillars. That's the first one, and it is the most important thing: getting hiring right.
So yeah, I look at and I think that's true of every specialty, not just sales. And so often, consultants can get called in to fix a team, and the real fix is getting the right people on board in the first place. So what would you say are some of the symptoms that your ideal client is noticing in their work environment, which would kind of give them a heads up they should be reaching out to you?
Yeah. So I see these leaders, they're making the same mistakes I'm made, and they're doing it again and again. And when I see these 5 things, I know there's a problem, and I know I can help. First, slow ramp times. You expect them to ramp to full productivity in 4 months, and it's taking them 6 months, 9 months. Number 2, high rep turnover. It's just this revolving door of reps in and out.
Right.
Number 3, when you find yourself asking the question, what can I do to motivate my sales team? That's number 3. If you say that, I hear that, I know I can be very helpful.
Right.
Yep. And then the fourth one is poor conversion rates. This sounds obvious, but like you expect a conversion rate of X, but you're seeing X minus. And then, of course, related to that is then low team quota attainment, only 30%, 50% quota attainment. When I see those 5 things, Tom,
Right.
or any one of those 5 things, I've been there and made that mistake, and I know at least some of the ways that I have solved that in the past with great success.
I would say those 5 things are actually quite common, and folks, if you're experiencing those, it's not a disgrace. It's kind of situation normal, and I think it just underlines the fact that every discipline or skill set within a business is a specialty in and of itself. So don't be embarrassed to reach out and have a chat with KG if you're experiencing those symptoms. But let's get back on the interview. We're talking about very ambitious, growth orientated CEOs and team leaders. They're in this IPO environment where shareholders expect a lot of them. They're going to sleep every night thinking about how to get the next breakthrough. They're going to be waking up, driving to work, thinking about it. Bottom line is they're going to be trying things. What would you say are some of the common mistakes maybe you've made that we could tell folks about to help them to avoid those mistakes in the future?
Yeah. So I like to refer back to these 4 pillars. When I work with clients, I focus on these particular 4 pillars. And the first one's going to be totally obvious. For recruiting, interviewing, and hiring. And by the way, those are 3 separate things all baked into one: recruiting, interviewing, and hiring. So that's the first pillar. And like I've said before, and you and I beat a dead horse on this one, that is one of the most important things.
Yep.
Second, for onboarding and training. So you make the strategic decision to make these hires, and you spend all this time putting the right butts in the seats, or at least attempting to put the right butts in the seat. And yes, but then you screw it up with poor onboarding and training. So that's the second pillar I like to shore up once we get the hiring right. The third is lack of effective coaching. This is when you get these great people on board, but then they want to get better, but you don't really create an environment that facilitates continuous improvement. And then the last piece is little to no document performance management system. This is, what does it take to get fired? What does it take to get promoted? What does good look like? When you put all 4 of those things together, you're cooking with gas. But most are moving so fast that they don't stop to focus on those 4 pillars. And I've made that mistake. So I've learned to shore that up.
And I mean, none of this is rocket science. It's you could say it's common sense, but my God, it's not commonplace. And that's the big thing, folks, is very often. And look, I've been introduced to Kevin. We're not on any sort of affiliate commission arrangement or anything like that. I have no financial interest in promoting Kevin. But for the love of God, please be smart enough to know that you're ignorant in some of these areas. And I say that with the greatest respect. I think that's one of the secrets to success, is that we don't actually have to be smart at everything. We just have to be smart enough to know how dumb we are at something and reach out and get some help.
Amen.
Speaking of help, I'm going to skip to the top tip. What can you do to give someone an idea that it's not going to solve the whole equation for them? They might need you but what's one thing they could do?
Like on their own?
Yeah, just make a list or something, or
Yeah. So I was going to go back to hiring again. And I say this all the time. You can have the best culture and the best comp and the best product. But if you put the wrong butts in the seat, you're going to have a rough time being successful. And as a result, I've had to self-teach myself, Tom. I've learned the most important thing that a leader can do is develop an intentional, thorough, yet speedy interview process to increase the chances of hiring great people for your sales team. And look, Tom, I didn't go through some sort of formal training program. I sought all this information out myself with plenty of books to read, including Top Grading for Sales, and Never Hire a Salesperson Again. But that's one thing, one big free tip. Do it yourself. Don't pay me for it.
And that's a nice segue into question 6, which is, where can people go to find out, get even more help?
Yeah. So I've got a really valuable free resource that I have on my website. My most popular free download on insidesalesexpert.com is my plug and play interview template that I've created and honed over the last 25 years. It's called 77 Salesperson Interview Questions. And it has 20 salesperson traits and characteristics and 77 real interview questions that I've asked and honed over the years that you can ask today to improve your chances of making a great salesperson hire.
And folks, to get that, go to www.insidesalesexpert.com. Is that right, Kevin?
That's right. You'll see a lead page right when you download, right when you go to the homepage there, or you can go to my free guides.
And so www.insidesalesexpert.com. It's there, 77 real life sales interview questions. Be a great asset to have. Last question, sir. We are out of time, but let me give you 20 seconds. What's the one question I should have asked you but didn't?
AKG, do you have any pieces of, non-obvious pieces of advice sales leaders should know? And here's my top 6. Sales kickoffs are an absolute waste of time and money. Spiffs and sales contests just aren't effective. Sales leaders' mission should be to see their reps quit and go someplace better. Curiosity cannot be taught, so make sure you hire curious people to begin with. Motivation isn't something that is done to somebody. And finally, and most controversial, your salespeople are not your friends, Tom.
A lot of wisdom that I pack in there. KG, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and your insights. Cheers.
My pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks for checking out our Marketing the Invisible podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. It's very much appreciated. And if you want to generate 5 fresh leads in just 5 hours, then check out www.5hourchallenge.com.